I met Sam while my ex-wife and I were visiting her parents for the holidays in a health club.
Mm.
I mean, that's how ironic. I never would have met him if we had not flown across the country to stay with my in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that time I was 25 years old, and I was a grown man, and I had never had an experience that was mutually supportive, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. I'd had a few random things that I don't even want to remember,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Um, and he just was someone that captivated me,
Yeah.
and I did not know where it would go. And the truth is, by separation from my wife, I felt like I just needed to investigate what was going on with this guy. I was literally blown away by, and I pursued the relationship. It
Mm-hmm.
was, and I knew I couldn't do both at the same time, and I couldn't tell anybody. And so the double life started, and it became, Sam was a person who spoke 6 languages, was raised in Austria,
Mm-hmm.
Paris, lived in New York City, taught me all about the world. He didn't know or care about sports. There was just a mutual connection that was powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And again, though, I jumped in feet first, like I guess someone without all the information or resources or tools. And
Mm-hmm.
um, ultimately, uh, I got hurt. There was no negative intention, except for just 2 people to try to be together, and for me to try to do that while I'm playing at now for the San Diego Padres,
Mm-hmm.
uh, was just like running through a minefield, trying to just dodge moments where my family wanted to see me or come to the house, or I would make up a lie. Um,
So nobody ever knew of your relationship with Sam while it was happening.
no, I got a little brazen about 2.5 years in, and I had remember a Super Bowl party in 1994, or maybe a year and a half in 1994, where I invited a lot of people to my house,
Mm-hmm.
and my whole family, and threw a big party. And Sam, I invited Sam, and I told everyone that Sam was just a buddy that I'd met uh, in business.
Mm-hmm.
And there was other people there that were single. It was no one but he got a chance to see my family. And then, so that's their reference backwards,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
when I
And
pick up
where
the
were
phone
you?
and say my buddy
Yeah.
died, and I can't barely hold it together,
Yeah.
a lot of questions start to surface.
Where were you living at the time when you had your party?
I was living in Del Mar, California, which is, I picked a place 20 miles north of San Diego, because I didn't want my teammates knocking on the door.
Right.
When we grew up, you're playing the big leagues. Most guys live in the same complex, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's just hanging out,
Yeah.
the whole time. And so
And
that's
you were
why.
with the Padres at that
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
Um, you loved Sam.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, it was an incredible affair. Like I literally thought I would spend the rest of my life with him.
Wow. Did he go to
And
your games?
he went to, I wrote about this. He went to one game in San Diego, and he was very, very friendly and very engaging. And he sat in the player section, the family section,
Mm-hmm.
and he ended up chatting up and getting to know the family of a teammate of mine named Phil Clark, who made a comment about it the next day. They're like, "Yeah, my parents think your buddy Sam's the greatest guy ever," and I almost had a heart attack. I'm like, I'm sure nothing was discussed that wasn't about baseball, and
Right.
perfectly normal. But
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh, he can't go to a game anymore. And so I made a rule that, he had to listen to it on the radio, and it was just safer for him not to go.
How did he feel about that?
Uh, I think it was devastating emotionally,
Yeah.
personally, but he
Yeah.
knew the reason. And what's so interesting is the one game he went to, I hit a home run,
Mm.
which didn't happen all the time. And he saw that, and he was so excited by it. And he felt like my good luck charm, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And I think that was just a sign that whatever weight I had on my back of worrying of what people might think about
Mm-hmm.
me. Again, this is 1993, 94, 95. Just still a different time.
Yeah.
And, he was a great sport in that way. And he knew that I loved him as much as I could for
Mm-hmm.
what my life experience had provided me.
Yeah.
He was much wiser than me. And he used to say things like, someday you'll know, and I think he realized that for him to love me the way that he wanted to, he had to give me that space.
Mm.
And he wasn't demanding. He didn't cause stress. He saw me on the phone with my ex-wife for hours and hours and hours, crying, trying to, exit the relationship with some compassion.
Yeah.
And he could have easily said, this is bullshit. I'm out of here.
Right.
You
Right.
need to fucking figure yourself out.
Right.
And he wasn't that way with
Yeah.
me.
What did you mean when you said, or what did Sam mean when he said to you, someday or one day you'll know?
Someday, I didn't finish. He said that you'll understand how much I love you. And I think that looking back, there was a wisdom. Again, he wasn't a U.S. citizen. He was a U.S. citizen, but he wasn't from the United States.
Yeah.
He was Persian. And he had a very old world sensibility about him. And that was the first moment that I thought, well, maybe, looking back, remembering him saying things like that, that he knew that he might not be around forever.
Wow.
And then that opened up a whole can of worms, when it came to his diagnosis for HIV, which was just like a train wreck derailment that we were not. I was just starting to establish myself with the Padres as a big league player. I was playing a lot. I was a part of the team. I felt so good about my career. I had struggled with the Dodgers and the Tigers. I always played great in the minors. I'd get back up in the big leagues, and then my whatever demons I had about myself and being gay and not belonging, and if someone ever found, all these internal conversations that were not helping me at all.
Yeah. Did you?
Like it got quiet, and then all of a sudden he just started falling apart.
Wow.
His health was right in front of, it like a matter of months. Started losing weight, his hair was falling out, like, weird things. And again, my naivete that, I wasn't a part of the gay community. I just had this guy named Sam who lived with me. I wasn't subjected to the dangers of HIV because I wasn't out around. I was in a monogamous relationship. I thought that meant safe sex.
How long did he live beyond diagnosis?
I would say less than 2 months.
Really?
But we waited a lot. I think he did not want to go find out. And that's why I think a part of him may have known. And the medication that was given to him at that time, I think killed him. I honestly do. Like it was so strong. And AZT, I think was what it was called. And it is what they were giving people with HIV at that time.
So he was living with you. How long was he living with you?
We lived together, I think 3 years.
And your teammates had no idea?
Nope.
And what would happen when they showed up at your house?
That only happened one time. and it was an awful experience. I had some buddies on the team. I had a really great game. They thought I was single and
Mm-hmm.
divorced,
Mm-hmm.
and they thought we should celebrate. And they showed up with a bunch of beer, and Sam and I were at home,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow they made it to my front door. I lived in a gated community, and I made him go. I lived in a multi-level condo with the view of the ocean, and
Mm-hmm.
he went downstairs and sat in his car in the garage, and he was down there for probably 3 hours until they left.
How did you feel about that?
I was dying. I was dying that he would come upstairs. I was dying that he was downstairs not coming upstairs, and I was dying that my friends were going to find out that I was gay right now.
Mm.
It was like a ticking time bomb, and I just wanted it to go away. And so I think my energy, the guys were like, wow, I guess, we're putting you out a little bit here. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
wasn't trying to get them to leave. I was playing the game. And this is the destructive nature of the closet. And it wasn't until MLB Network made a documentary about my playing time
Mm-hmm.
and life. When I returned to baseball, a couple comments from the players that it wasn't until my story came out, even though I didn't talk to them about it, that my behavior started to make sense to them.
Mm.
Because I went from a guy who was completely open and easy,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden got really closed off. And that's what lies do. You got to hide things. And it was self-destructive. And, I look back sometimes and I think I can't even remember that my last season. I don't even know how I played, because I was just trying to hide a secret. I wasn't trying to be a big league baseball player. I threw my career away. And it was really something that personally is hard for me to just accept, because you only get one chance at this life. And that was a time where I could have used some help. And I came to learn that I did have some friendships with some teammates that would have stuck by me.
Mm.
It might have changed my life, and it might have changed the course of me maybe coming out as a player. It could have changed a lot of things. But when people ask me that question, were you out as a player? I was living in shame. I was hiding secrets. My family didn't know. I was just
getting by.
Yeah.
Just getting by. So Sam passes away, and it happens to be his funeral was a day you had a game.
Yeah, both times. I came home from a game, and Sam had been, his health was failing. But I still didn't think, he was so young. I didn't think he was something permanent would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And rushed him to the emergency room. And he made it through the night, but the morning that he died, he went into cardiac arrest, and they tried to, revive him with the defibrillator, and he didn't come through. And I had a game that day. I had a 1:00 game. It was 7 a.m. in the morning, and I went home, dropped off, took a shower, and went straight to the ballpark. And then his funeral was, I made only one call, and that was to his family, his sister. And they made funeral arrangements, and she said, "We expect you to be there." They knew that Sam loved me, and that he was being well taken care of, and it was for the most part, a healthy relationship. He was not out to all of his family either. But instead of going to the funeral, I'm like, I can't go to the funeral. I have a game. I'm on the San Diego Padres. I have a job. Like I had already decided that I had no value outside of that uniform. And again, you talk to people that are in, the way they value their relationships, and they look at me with horror when they hear that. Like,
Mm.
it's just like how disrespectful, how self-hating, and I just look back and I thought it just felt so like the only choice I could have made,
Mm.
to bury a partner without your parents even knowing who they are.
Mm.
Um, you know, it was a dark time. It was definitely a dark time,
How
and
painful was it for you to go play a game the day of his funeral?
yeah, I just found a way to sit in the car, and I remember being very, very emotional, and honestly, at that time, I think I was still just as concerned about being outed.
Mm.
How that would I would never, like, there was I was in such shock at the time, though. I didn't put in perspective the thought, like, Billy, what are you doing? Like, what,
Yeah.
the club will perhaps understand. You don't have, I just thought, I don't have a reason, I don't have an excuse to come up with, and I'm not good enough to miss a game.
Mm.
Like, all of those things were your value. I was a
Right.
struggling big leaguer, in and out of, AAA for years. And um, you know and I put myself in that category. I could have probably had a much better career if I just would have been able to have self-acceptance. And
Mm-hmm.
but that's a tough one, Karen. That
Yeah.
that that scar again, that's right on there.
Yeah.
It's not, that isn't going to change.
Yeah.
I can't, say a penance or run a marathon, and erase it. It's
Right.
just, it's stuck to me.
When you have a relationship that is, I disrespected it in so many ways. I loved him with all my heart, but I pretended it didn't exist to everyone. And so when he was just taken out of that equation for a minute, I just literally kind of pretended that it just disappeared or something. It was a naive, awful choices continuing to make to try to, again, please people that I thought had expectations that I needed to meet, as opposed to my internal wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of that year, when this, he died the night before opening day, so I had the whole season, and it just seemed like it was 10 years that season. And I played angry. I used to drive to the park. I'd sit in the parking lot and I would put on a certain couple songs that would force me to get my emotions out. And I would really try to vet that. And then I would turn into Billy being the baseball player and jovial and, with the guy, because everyone can tell if you're not right, and I was heartbroken, man. I still miss him. I mean, I don't like to think about it all the time, but when I do, it breaks me up a little bit, because I didn't get a chance to ever find out where that relationship could go. We were together 3 years, but he was wonderful to me, taught me so many things, and I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And then to not go to his funeral and things like that, like those are just scars that don't heal emotionally for me.